everybody. We are here at Realcomm Live. Amazing this time of day, still good energy. People running around, trying to figure out all these problems that we're trying to solve. And I couldn't be happier than to have Spencer Levy with me. Did a phenomenal job this morning.
Thank you, Jim. I'm always delighted to be back here. And as you mentioned before,
you're an alumni at this point.
I saw a picture of me on the screen from, it might have been 10 years ago.
It was, yeah. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, I mean, I remember you've been here, but when I saw that photo, I go, this is kind of like deja vu. It's kind of fun. Well, but the topic is as relevant as ever.
Well, the only thing that disappointed me about the deja vu, the tie that I wore on stage 10 years ago, I actually had in my pocket. So I'm glad I didn't put it on.
Are you kidding?
I'm dead serious.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. So let's kind of carry on from the conversation that we had in the general session. We wanted to talk about the economy, then we wanted to take that down to the commercial real estate market. And then from there, we wanted to talk about the impacts on innovation, right? Because I think this is my third time off the cliff where we're talking about show me the ROI because we blew it, right? So just give a quick synopsis, because your tone and your message is a little different than Phil's. You were a little more optimistic. Let's spend the first couple minutes, just a synopsis of what you think where the market, the general economy is at.
Sure, so very big picture. The market, you need to break it into two parts. You need to break it into the capital markets, the cost of money, the availability of money, and then the underlying performance of the assets themselves. And it really is the tale of two worlds, because the capital markets are very poor, very, very difficult right now, because interest rates continue to go up. They may go up further, and it's causing enormous stress in interest rate sensitive industries. Yep. You know which industries are the two most interest rate sensitive industries? Real estate and tech. Yep. And people say, well, why is tech so interest rate sensitive? It's because for all these publicly traded companies, they're all valued based upon their future growth, and small changes in interest rates have dramatic change in value. So the capital markets are poor. Right. Fundamentals, on the other hand, are quite good. In fact, very good in most asset types, including certain segments of office, which has been so hard hit. Right. And the real question is, will it hang in there? Because they are good, but they are weakening, even in places like apartments, multifamily, industrial, weakening. But I will tell you that two areas that would typically lead us down are retail and hotels. Those are two areas of great strength, right, both fundamentally and from a capital markets perspective.
But can retail and hotel hold up given the pressure on with inflation and everything else we're seeing in the market? I mean, are people still going to be able to go out? I read someplace where credit card debt was going up again, and consumers were spending not with cash but with plastic. Is that a concern? I mean, that we're over leveraging again at the consumer level?
Well, the reason why we're in the macro issue that we're in right now is there was simply too much liquidity in the system, pumped in
starting from 2009
for the right reason. Well, that and also for COVID, we did it for the right reasons. We hit a
too much
event, too much.
Yeah,
but it's better to have too much than too little, I suppose.
Right.
And now we're burning it off. And so what you're saying is entirely correct, that the consumer is not going to have that same level of liquidity a year from now.
No. So I'm an office owner. Everything was going good. My values were going up. I was getting big tenants. 2019, they were signing big leases. I was feeling confident. Pandemic happens, it reshifts everything, everybody's thinking. And then we said, okay, we're going back by 4th of July, we're going back by Labor Day, we're going back by, not Christmas, we'll wait till the first of the year. And that was about a year and a half, almost 2 years of that. Now it's like 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. Well, we're going virtual. So my question is, if you're an office owner with a building that's 50% utilized, not, signed leases, and somebody comes in, one of these guys comes and says, I got this great innovative idea that will provide this. Is that project going to be put to the side? Is that owner going to say, I'm sorry, I just don't have the money to invest in this, even though they know they need to create the operating efficiency and the tenant engagement stuff? So, we got to go back to these new environments, these immersive environments. Well, I'm not collecting my leases anymore or my rent payments. How can you afford to do this? What does this do to innovation?
Well, actually, necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
And there is no more time for necessity than today in the office sector, both from a physical standpoint and a digital standpoint. So from the physical standpoint, you hear a lot about converting these buildings into other uses, multifamily. Unfortunately, it's very expensive, and we've done some studies with Gensler, a big architectural firm.
They're here, by the way.
They're here.
Yep.
They think it's 10 to 15% maybe of the space. So
they came up with a program that I mean, you literally put
they have a terrific program, speaking of technology, on
exactly.
the data side, of how to analyze what can actually get done. But then on the data side and the innovation side, that's where you might have a greater opportunity. The opportunity really is, how do you get people back into the office meaningfully and having it being a differentiated experience from being at home?
Well, I've been having this conversation for at least a year with the senior folks at Gensler, HOK, Zaha Hadid, Microsoft, all trying to figure this out. So the physical space leading experts, the automation experts. We had a phenomenal session yesterday on the hybrid, flexible, immersive office. Gensler was in there, their lead guy who talks about the next generation of office space. So the question begs, again, with this financial pressure, leases kind of disappearing, the question begs, am I going to have the money to do what I need to do to these assets that are struggling? And then the second side of it is, how good does it have to be to get that 2-hour commute to not be an issue? That 2-hour commute just keeps coming up over and over and over again.
Sure. So what I'm going to say now is disappointing to a lot of physical real estate people as opposed to the digital real estate people. The physical plant matters less than the other factors. The other factors are led by the community in which it sits, because I think the most important amenity are the amenities on the street, not necessarily in the building. But then the most important thing of all, and this goes right to innovation, is not the physical space. It's not the Zoom screen. It's the relationship between the landlord, tenant, or really better stated, the occupier and their employees. If you could find ways to enhance that relationship, you will get people back into the office. And I say this, shameless plug, graduate of the Cornell School of Industrial and Labor Relations. I studied labor. What we're seeing in the office sector is not a physical office issue. It is a labor versus management issue like we've been seeing for thousands of years. So ways that you could bring labor and management closer together in a relationship of trust, that's really the key. And I know that's like a pie in the sky word. How do you get the trust? But if you could innovate in a way that enhances that trust between employer and employee, that's your golden ticket.
We actually have some folks here who are some of the biggest real estate project portfolio owners in the United States, if not the world. And they are even scratching their heads a little bit saying, I'm taking the train in, I'm doing the 2-hour commute to sit in my office in this beautiful New York skyscraper to be on Teams calls with people 30 feet down the hall. We got to get away from that and get back to this interactivity, this collaboration, this trust building community that you're talking about, right?
I'll say one thing, a shameless plug, and then I'll go to something else, but I am a professional speaker. And I speak at terrific events like Realcomm, I speak at universities, colleges, and in private organizations. I did a speech the other day in downtown Los Angeles in the afternoon in an office tower, and it was full house. Okay. And believe me, I am not Elvis. Right. But I'm telling you, a live, engaging, FOMO,
that's why we're here.
Fear of missing out is really valuable. Another thing that's valuable is you could see people on Zoom. Are you going to have a cup of coffee or a beer with them after lunch?
Right.
Or for dinner? There are these human things that if you are a younger professional, hear me now, you're going to miss things if you don't get together. And I know it's a controversial topic. No. I know the commute's an issue, and I know there's other factors involved, but you just simply cannot learn remotely.
And I agree with much of what you just said. I do believe, though, that the physical paradigm of getting in a car, driving to this place, amongst a 2-hour commute, that's the last 100 years or so. And then Gates and Jobs and all these guys with the digital stuff that ends up in this room creates a different paradigm. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's a combination of both. And what I would suspect is going to happen is smaller and smarter, right? So 100,000 square feet of lots of old cubes and old concepts versus $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 of really tightly designed, innovative, immersive experience where I can be on a conversation with you in a minute and have somebody in Tokyo on the wall in the next 30 seconds. That's the future, I think, is going to be required to get these people back into offices.
Well, I'm not so sure, only for this reason. I think that's going to be a lot of what you're saying, Jim. I think that you're probably 75, 80% right, if not more. But I think the future hasn't been written yet. The future always looks more like the past than we think. And I think once you see this rise in unemployment, more people are going to come back to the office, and then people are going to realize that being here in a great room with 2,000 people, like-minded people, is way better than being on this room in Zoom.
Right. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, but when we need to bring those speakers in via Zoom, because a plane didn't take off or a family member got sick, it should not be a big deal. It should be the sending of an invitation, and those people are in that room in a split second.
Yesterday, I did a speech in Washington, D.C. My first one was for a large insurance company in Boston. I did it via Zoom. The second one I did on stage half an hour later in front of 300 people. So it certainly makes it more efficient.
Yeah. I mean, and so final question, and it's a long one. Maybe I'll just plant the seed and we can discuss it next time we get together. But anybody who's willing to take the question, cycles. Every 10, 15 years in the real estate industry, up, down. At least in my career, I've seen it since 90. Once it was real estate, then it was tech, then it was real estate and tech and finance. This one, who knows? Is this a typical 10, 15-year cycle, or is this possibly a paradigm shift like barns, factories, mixed use, office? I mean, is there any possibility this is a bigger paradigm shift than some people think?
Secondary market malls dragged the entire retail sector down for a decade. Yeah. And now, retail is one of the best performing sectors in all of commercial real estate, and institutional investors are going back to it again. Office is going through a similar shakeout, and when it comes back out of it, and I don't know if it's going to be 15 years, it could be 6, 7 years, it's going to be stronger than ever.
Right.
I think if you're in the right sub-market with the right building today, it's a great place to be, not only for all of the reasons why working is good, it's a great place to invest, in part because everybody else is afraid. Right? To quote Warren Buffett, be greedy when people are fearful, be fearful when people are greedy.
Right, yeah. Some things don't change. Well, we are out of time. Mary's given us that look, and I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you, Jim, for having me again.
Great job this morning and now, and continued success, and I'm sure we will meet again, hopefully at another Realcomm.
I look forward to it, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you.